nations face off, guys. Canada versus Sweden tonight. USA opens against Finland tomorrow night. Phil, let's start with you. Let's go with what you think the strength of Team USA is.
They got the best goaltending group in the tournament. Like, hands down, it's not even close. I mean, Canada, who a lot of people were always going to look at as the favorites, their goaltending is just horrendous. So the U.S. has the best goaltending group. They may be the most well-balanced team of any, but their goaltending sticks out to me. You have what's probably going to be a 3-time Vezina winner in Connor Hellebuyck. And behind him, you have Jake Ottinger and Jeremy Swayman. And those two goalies could start on any other team in this tournament. Yeah, it's debatable with Finland and UC Saros. UC Saros is great, but you can argue Jake Ottinger's right there with him. I mean, Swayman before this year, you would argue that he was right there.
Yep.
So, I mean, Sweden, they don't have the goaltending that everyone else does. Ullmark, Vezina winner in 2023. We're starting to see that was more due to the team in front of him. No disrespect to him, but his numbers have not come anywhere close, just like Igor Shesterkin's since his Vezina winning year. And it's funny because they had similar numbers in their Vezina winning years back to back.
And Gustafson's the one that's starting for them.
Yeah, and Gustafson's very good. Don't get me wrong. But I would probably take Ottinger over him. Swayman's debatable. You can say that Gustafson has done more considering there's a lesser team in front of him. But I would say Ottinger could probably start on any other team in this tournament, especially Canada.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So having Hellebuyck and having that depth of goaltending, they were talking about it on, I believe it was TSN. Yes, TSN was talking about it. Oh, no. I'm sorry. It was the NHL Network. It was Jason Demers from the NHL Network that was talking about how if Hellebuyck falters, do they go to Ottinger or Swayman quickly? Or do they stick it out with Hellebuyck and give him time to get himself going? Because Demers brought up Hellebuck's playoff numbers. So when that happens and you have Jake Ottinger as your number 2 option, you're doing pretty good.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, both those goalies, if they can use this as a springboard to the playoffs, that's even more power to them. Anthony, let's go to the north and go to Team Canada. What is their strength?
Well, certainly not their goaltending. But I mean, isn't it obvious? I think their strength is their heaviness in terms of skilled players at the top of their lineup. And I mean, really through the bottom of their lineup. If you look at spots where guys like Brandon Hagel's playing in the lineup, but I mean, McDavid, Marner, McKinnon, Crosby, Reinhart, and they just have abundance of riches at the forward position. So they're a team that's going to be fast and they can score goals if you don't defend them well. Their defense is still really good too, and don't sleep on their defense. I mean, Cale Makar, Devon Taves, Josh Morrissey, they got a good group. Drew Doughty's filling in. He made the team. Happy for him because he's very excited about it. If not playing for a while due to injury, but you can't count them out just because their goaltending is a little weaker. I think that forward group is enough to carry them through. Because realistically, all you really need is Aiden Hill or Skinner or whoever's going to play. If they can even just play it like maybe they're given like a 9-10 save percentage, that given their offense, that might be enough for them to get by. So we'll see. But I like the overall depth that team has.
And it's amazing, Anthony, when you think that they could actually, if they wanted to, go either McKinnon or McDavid when you have the choice of those two guys as the top center, and then have Sidney Crosby be a 3C. I mean, that's even more incredible. Just even thinking about that right now, I just wonder where to go with that. But Philk, let's go over to Team Sweden. You look at them, what's their strength?
Defense.
Yeah.
Definitely their defense. Multiple Norris trophies on that blue line. They arguably have the best blue line in the tournament.
Yeah.
With USA losing Quinn Hughes, for the tournament. I would say that their defense is right on par with Sweden's now. USA had the edge for me before the Hughes injury. Now it's really close for me between Sweden and USA. So yeah, I think that Sweden, if they're going to win this tournament, their defense and their team defense, and they've got good two-way players too. You got players like Joel Eriksson Ek. Miga's advantage at if he ever finds his way, like maybe this is the tournament where he finally, says, "Hey, this is the kick in the ass that I need to wake up." He can be a good two-way player for them. I mean, up and down their roster, they have guys that play very good, very highly structured hockey. The other thing I want to say is that Team Sweden has players that can produce off the rush. William Nylander is one of the best players in the league off the rush. If you check his rush analytics, he's probably top 5 to 10 in just about every statistical category when it comes to generating chances off the rush. And he's the league leader in breakaways and breakaway goals this year. So that's a guy that if you can get him sprung loose, he could do a lot of damage against other teams.
Anthony, and the team that everyone's overlooking in this is Finland. You look at them, what's their strength?
Well, I mean, it's certainly not their defense. They're the most banged up in that area. There's so many injuries there that's really hurt their chances. But I do like that. Not that I like. I think one of Finland's strengths is, and it's always their strength in international play, is that they're real tough to play against. They play a real tough game. They're sound defensively. With Sasha Barkov as a forward leading the way there. They got all around complete players, and he's really kind of like the gold standard of that. And then you have snipers like Patrick Laine, Mikko Rantanen, so Sebastian Aho. So they're talented. They got good players. They're more of like a lunch pail workmanship style team that just grinds it out and plays solid hockey in all areas of the ice. For me, it's just I think their defense is too banged up for them to compete in this tournament. And then again, with some of those talented forwards that I mentioned that they have, it is possible. But the last side to that is their goaltending. I mean, like Kevin Lankinen's probably going to get the first crack at it. I mean, that doesn't build much confidence for me. Overall, though, with the injuries they have and goaltending, I put them as the 4th team in this tournament. But watch me be wrong, but that's just where I think they fall right now.
Yeah, Finland has that unique ability to be able to surprise a lot of people. And you look at sure. You might say, all right, well, their defense is down, but you look at their center depth when you go, wow, Alexander Barkov, Sebastian Aho, and then maybe Anton Lindell, 3rd. They can probably shut some people down, and that's
what I was going to say. That's probably their strength for me is two-way play, because you're looking at Aho, Barkov, Haula, Hintz, Kakko, Lehkonen, Lundell, Luosterainen, and you could say Rantanen and Teravainen are decent defensive players as well. They have a glut of forwards that will play the type of game that's needed to win. So yeah.
But now let's look at the weaknesses of every single club. And Bill, I'll start you out with the hardest one for me to look at the weakness on. Team USA, what is their weakness?
Looking at that roster, the one thing that I can say when I look at that roster is there is a little bit of a lack of size and jam there on defense. And I look at McAvoy is a stud. He's a two-way stud. Faber is a guy that's becoming somebody like McAvoy. I mean, for anyone that's a Minnesota fan here, I know Guntoon Granny's in the chat, but if that's the comparison that I'm seeing, and Faber is becoming very much like McAvoy. So that's a very good prospect for Wild fans. But a good half of that roster is just, up front, is just not physical. And you're going to have to play a heavy game at times, especially when you come up against a team like Finland that's going to make you play that type of game. That they're going to agitate their opponents. That's how they're going to win if Finland wins. They are going to get under their opponent's skin. And Canada, they have the guys that'll do it too. Sam Bennett, Anthony Cirelli, Brandon Hagel, Seth Jarvis, Travis Konechny, Brad Marchand, Braden Point, Sam Reinhart, Mark Stone. Those guys can all play physical hockey. And in Stone's case, any Dallas fans in here, yeah, he gets a little dirty at times, as we can see. But Drew Doughty, physical in the back end. Josh Morrissey can get physical in the back end. Kel McCarr has thrown around his weight. Parayko and Sanheim, very physical. So USA is going to have to play a more physical game, and everyone on that team, regardless of position or size, is going to have to buy it.
And I think that's where you hit the nail on the head. When the game, you have to grind it out against Team USA. Can they grind it out just as well as, say, Canada might be able to? Speaking about which, I know we're beating this drum, Anthony, and I know what you're going to say. Canada's biggest weakness is?
Yeah. I mean, this would be like get the hoop if this is bar talk.
I'll bring it up for you anyway.
It's goaltending. The trio that they have there, when you put them up against the goaltending of USA or even Sweden, I don't like their goaltending. I mean, granted, you have guys on there like Aiden Hill. He won a Stanley Cup. Jordan Binnington won a Stanley Cup, but they're not elite goaltenders. Granted, we talk about they're in the regular season in the NHL. You don't need an elite goaltender to win, and that's true. So maybe in a short tournament, that's even more true. But I just feel like playing against a squad like Team USA that can put up goals and is really talented. I think that goaltending, the crest could show. So, but like I mentioned when we started, if one of those guys, I know Binnington's starting the first game, if he could play at a level where he's giving the team like a 9-10 save percentage night in, night out, that might be good enough for them to win with how good Canada is offensively and they're strong defensively too. So maybe that's enough for them to get by. But yeah, it's certainly goaltending.
Yeah, and right now I think Canada's kind of grimacing a little bit when you think about Logan Thompson sitting at home with a 921 save percentage.
Yeah, so, I don't know about that one. I don't know. What is Sam Montevo? That seems like a Canadian media pick right there.
Yeah, well, at the time, it looked like Montevo was playing well enough. Yeah. I'm trying not to laugh too hard at that comment because I don't want to start
Binnington pulling what the KHL goaltender did the other day would be absolutely hilarious.
That would be priceless to see. And also priceless to see, Philk, what is Sweden's weakness?
Sweden's weakness, you could look at two different things on that roster if you ask me. And I could say, hey, this could probably hurt them. One is goaltending. I look at the goaltenders, and Philip Gustafsson, while he's good, and Linus Ullmark is good, are they good enough to win that tournament against some of the goaltenders they're going to be up against? I'm not entirely sold on it, but I don't think that they're going to hurt you, but I do have my concerns on them having the ability to be the guys. And then up front, it's probably a lack of true top-end scorers for me. Like, they have very good players. Like, Philip Forsberg is there. Jesper Bratt, I like him as a depth player, but I don't see him being as a big-time scorer in this type of tournament. Adrian Kempe, underrated player. I think he's going to have a real good tournament. But aside from, like, William Nylander, Elias Pettersson, and Philip Forsberg, who are the linchpins otherwise?
Anthony, I'll give you the last easy one, which is Finland's weakness.
I mean, it's their defense. I mean, they're going to really miss Miro Heiskanen. He's a horse back there for them. And without him, I mean, you're looking at their defense, Esa Lindell, he's going to have to play serious minutes. They're just very inexperienced on the back end, and I mean that this is a perfect example of why the NHL didn't want to include a team like Czechia in the event, because they want to have every player playing in the tournament being an NHL player. And you know, with the Czechs, they only have like 5 guys who played defense in the NHL this year. So
and Finland only has 11.
Yeah, similar to Finland. Now that they have so many injuries, that they're getting real thin on defense, to the point where, you know, if they suffered another injury, you probably have to go outside the NHL. So, you know, I just think that their defense is going to be a huge issue for them. And I think over time they're going to get worn down, and I think the inexperience on the back end is going to show.
So, guys, let's make our predictions now. Who you got winning this thing? I'm going to start with you, Mr. LaRocco, and go right back down to the bottom square.
I mean, maybe call it a homer pick. We're Americans, but I'm going to say USA. I just think from top to bottom, they're the most complete roster, from their forward to their defense to their goaltending. So unless something, you know, goes wrong and, you know, all of their goalies just, you know, turn in subpar performances, I don't see how they're going to lose, to be honest with you. I mean, they got enough goal scoring, you know, Matthews, Hughes, the Kachucks, you know, they got guys that could put the puck in the net just as well as Canada. And the kicker is their goaltending is just so much better. So I got USA.
Philk? Oh, by the way, who do you got USA beating?
To me, on paper, they are the most complete team top to bottom, even without Quinn Hughes. So I think the U.S. probably beats Canada in the final. Canada's power play is definitely a monster, as Kevin's pointing out here, but I just don't think that they have the defense that the U.S. does. When you brought in Sanheim and Parayko in a tournament where speed is emphasized and they don't have the puck movers on the back end, I just, for me, Cale Makar can play 25 minutes a game. Mm-hmm. But what happens for the other 35 minutes of that game when he's not on the ice? And to me, I just think it's U.S. top to bottom. I honestly would not be stunned completely if Sweden ends up making a finals over Canada, like it's the U.S. and Sweden in the championship, because Sweden is a team I think that some are going to sleep on.
It's hard to go against John Cooper, who might be the best coach in this tournament, but you gotta like US's roster construction. I think a little bit better than I like Canada's. We're going to talk about the power plays in a little bit, because every team's going to have a stellar power play unit to go with. And I do have USA winning it. I'm having trouble trying to figure out the team that's going to finish second. And what is the major upset? If it's Finland versus USA, rematch of the final game in the 1980 Olympics, or if maybe it's Finland or Sweden upsetting Canada. I'm tending to lean on the smaller ice surface favors the North American teams just by default. And the last time they had a tournament like this here, it was still United States versus Canada in the 2010 Olympics. So we'll see.
Your ideas are intriguing to me, and I wish to subscribe to your newsletter.